This evening, Stantec are giving out scratch and win tickets. You may not realize that you could be sitting on a small fortune. Scratch and win, giving away 3 sets of Apple AirPods as well. So visit them on stand 24 for your chance to win. Now, after the final session today, Gallagher are sponsoring the drinks at the end of the day. Gallagher, of course, is an international insurance brokerage, risk management and consulting firm with specialized mining capability. And for over 3 decades, Gallagher Mining has helped clients with mining operations and investments right across the globe. From exploration to production and beyond, Gallagher Mining provides solutions to help businesses throughout the full life mining cycle. And to tell us more, we're joined by Adam George, a client manager with Gallagher. Here he is.
Thanks, Jerry. Look, it's great to be back again at the RIU, and despite these mask mandates being in effect, it's great to see the attendance levels at the levels that they have been around the conference. Gallagher are pleased yet again to return as the insurance and conference break sponsor for the 7th consecutive year. We appreciate the opportunity that Steve and Jax and the broader RIU team continue to provide us for participation at the event. It's a great way for us to show our support for the industry, and also a great opportunity for us to catch up with many of our clients here at the RIU. For others, it's an opportunity for Gallagher to introduce our brand as a leading mining insurance broker and also convey the diverse capabilities that we have on offer. Many of you already know that our mineral exploration insurance facility is a highly competitive and insurance solution tailored for explorers from IPO through to development. And we are grateful for AMEC for their continued endorsement of the facility solution and so the support of so many of their members. If you want to know more about the facility offering, please do reach out to Richard Todhunter, just back there, mid-row, or myself, we're at stand 59. I'd also like to just acknowledge AMEC for their continued endorsement of the facility over the years. And again, I'm sure Doug Bowie of AMEC would be able to provide you with some great testimonial towards our service. With so many explorers actually on the precipice of commercialising their asset, it's important to note that Gallagher actually have a broader capability offering as well. We don't just stop in the exploration space. We actually have substantial insurance expertise available to support the transition from development and into continued production activities. Again, if you'd like to know more, please do stop by at stand 59 and give us a gentle quiz. Otherwise, to end, we'll be sponsoring the drinks tonight, so please do stop by, enjoy a drink on us, and feel free to have a chat as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And Adam will be around at drinks, and feel free to bail him up and talk about insurance. Now, we come to the power session with 10-minute presentations to round off today. And the first one, oh, yeah, perfect. Latin Resources, this happens all the time. Latin Resources is developing minerals to provide the planet with environmentally sustainable products. Managing Director Chris Gale joins us with an update on the company's halloysite kaolin development in Australia and its lithium exploration programs in Brazil and Argentina. Did I get that right? Because I have a note here, something I should have written yesterday, tried to, and it didn't work.
Yeah, I'm the younger, better looking version of Chris, so he couldn't make it today.
I figured there was a change.
Yeah. Great. Well, thanks very much. Well, my name's Tony Greenway, and as I said, Chris can't be here today, so his apologies for that. But I'm the exploration manager for Latin. Some of you may know me. I've presented for the company before, but I'll be sort of walking you through what Latin is up to, and it's my pleasure to do so today. Okay, obviously the normal disclaimers, etc. that I offer, you should read those. Given we've only got 10 minutes, just a very quick overview from a corporate sense. The thing to pick up there, I guess, is our market cap, 43 million. At the moment, we think That's pretty good buying, pretty good value at the moment. That's actually increased a bit today on the back of some results, some announcements that we made this morning, and I'll go through those with you just shortly. So who are we? What are we looking to do? So our strategy here is to discover and delineate and develop mineral projects in commodities that progress global efforts towards this net zero emissions. So there's a number of key, I guess, commodities that we're looking at there. Lithium obviously is one of them, and I'll be talking to you a bit about a lithium project we have in Brazil that, again, we announced some results from this morning, and for obvious reasons with batteries and EVs, etc., coming along. Copper as well sits in that same sort of field for that green technology. I'll also give you a brief update on our Cloud9 deposit just out the back of Meriton here in Australia, which is halloysite and kaolin. Okay, so firstly, like I said, I really want to talk to you about a project we've got over in Brazil. It's our 100% owned Salinas project in a region called Minas Gerais, which is a prolific pegmatite district. It's lots of mining going on over there, and it is a world-class district for this type of mineralisation. We also have a joint venture down in Argentina, you can see there with the Catamarca lithium project. We have our own MTO3 copper project in Peru that we are looking to progress under our own right, and we have an investment in Solus Minerals with a copper project in in Chile. So Minas Gerais, this is, as I said, a prolific area of Brazil. You can see it sort of sitting in there. We're about 600 k's from Belo Horizonte, which is one of the capitals through there. There's major power through there. There's major water, etc. So this is a really good area to operate in. Sigma Lithium, you can see about 100 k's to the south of us down there. They're developing and mining a project down there, and this is one of the key reasons for us to be there. We looked at Sigma and we had a look at the sort of results they were getting out of there. Obviously, with that project coming into production, it's fairly prolific down there. So we went out looking for similar geology, and Pedro, our geologist on the ground, identified the Bananal Valley and the Salinas South projects as places that we needed to be. So we've managed to build ourselves a fairly large portfolio of projects up there. You can see the just over 5,000 hectares across those two projects. These are early stage projects. We've been drilling out at Bananal Valley, and I'll talk to you about that just on the next slide. Our initial work was at Bananal Valley, and we've been able to map some outcropping pegmatites down there. And you can see some of the results that we got from that at 2.7% lithium and 1.45% lithium. And I guess a key thing to take away from that is that this is outcroppings pegmatites. So the spodumene in these outcrop samples are really weathered. So in that weathering environment, lithium is quite mobile, so it disappears very quickly. So to get 2.7% and 1.45 was a pretty significant outcome from that first project, and certainly gave us some pretty gave us a lot of encouragement to get back in there and drill our first holes. So we started just a few weeks ago. You can see there in February, we've got a 14-hole program for about 2,000 metres of drilling planned. And I was really pleased to be able to put out this morning an announcement that just walks you through some of the results of our first hole. That was targeting directly underneath that spodumene occurrence that we picked up, about 50 metres down dip from that. And we actually hit 3 separate spodumene-bearing pegmatites, which was really very encouraging for us. The first one was about 3.5 metres. It was still slightly in the weathered environment, but we got a quite well-developed spodumene through that. That intersection up there, you can see, is about 80 metres down, so it's fresh. There's about 5 metres, just over 5.5 metres there of pegmatites, and about 20% spodumene running through that. And I would caution people that spodumene, that 20% is an estimate of the spodumene, and that's not a lithium estimate. So you do need to be a little bit careful about that. But certainly to have that amount of spodumene in that fresh environment, we're really encouraged about. And we're obviously prioritising that hole to be cut and sampled and get it into the lab so we can update the market with some results. But certainly a fantastic start. That's the first hole, a set of 14 that we're going to be doing through there, and really has got us very excited about this project. And we think, gives us a lot of impetus to get onto and look for a significant discovery out there in this district. You can see that hole there, SADD001, that's our first hole, targeting those 2 high-grade outcropping spodumene occurrences and lithium occurrences there. The light red or the light pinkish sort of thing is where we've mapped our pegmatites at surface, and you can see they extend over 1.2 kilometres. So this is a good system that we're into here. We only mapped one pegmatite at surface that we sampled, but we've actually hit 3 below that in our first hole. So we know there's a lot of pegmatite here. We know there's a lot of spodumene in these holes. So we're really excited about this and really encouraged by what we're seeing early on in the program. So I would encourage you all to watch this space as we progress through our drill program. Further to the south, at our Salina South project, we've done, again, our initial work here. You can see there we've identified a bit of a lithium corridor through there. This is early stage work. It extends over about 4 kilometres. You can see some of the outcropping spodumene and pegmatites there. So again, this is very weathered material. So we're looking at soil samples through there and channel samples that we're taking through that. Again, very encouraging to see that in this really weathered environment. So as we progress this one, we'll be looking to go down and put some drill holes into this area as well. Moving on to Argentina, this is the Catamarca district. You can see we've got 2 projects there. This is under joint venture. But some of the early work that we did on the project before we joint ventured, you can see some of the results through there. 3 metres at 3% lithium, 5.2 at 1.6, 6 at 2.4. So we know there's lithium here. This is, again, a prolific district of Argentina, and we're very excited to get back on the ground through there. We've been working with the local contractors over there to get back on the ground through there, and we're hoping to do that very shortly. This is our copper project in southern Peru, the M2R project. This is a mag anomaly you can see here. This is a porphyry target that we think we're onto here. This is all undercover. There's no outcrop here at all, so this is a blind target. We've been working with the governments to get permitting coming through, and we anticipate to be on the ground drilling that in the second quarter of this year. So quite excited to get into this project. It's been a long time in the coming, and it's certainly a very clear and priority target for us to get on the ground over there. Very quickly back into WA, this is our Kaolin project at Cloud9. It's just outside of Merredin, so about 3 hours drive away. If you're following Latin, you would have seen a lot of work on this project late last year as we drilled this resource out. We've got a significant resource sitting there at Cloud9, and you can see by that tenure there, a lot of work to do along strike. We're currently advancing the Cloud9 deposit itself through feasibility studies, pre-feasibility studies to look at a DSO operation to get that up and running, whilst we run concurrently with a more detailed full feasibility study on a wet processing facility and what have you on that deposit. That's just a snapshot of the actual resource itself. You can see 200 million tonnes there. 42% of that is in the clay zone, so we've got good recovery through that. So just under 100 million tonnes of potential material through there. It's really bright, so we're looking at around 80%, and there's a core that we're looking to focus on this area in here. That's running about 84 brightness, so our initial startup pit will target that, and we'll look at trying to bring that into production as quickly as we can to generate some cash flow for the company whilst we look at a larger project here. One of the big things about this is halloysite and the use of that. There's a very significant halloysite resource here. And I guess the big push for that is in methane suppression. Latin has partnered with a group called CRC Care based in the University of Newcastle over east. And their guys there, Ravi heading that team, he's the ex-chief geologist from CSIRO, and his specialty is clay modification for looking at these type of applications with methane suppression and cleaning up spills and things like that. So that's a really exciting area for us, and we're certainly focused on that in parallel with actually pushing the straight Kaolin project that we will look to get up and going as quickly as we can. So in terms of news flow from Latin, we're into February now, so obviously the Salinas lithium project there drilling has commenced, and we're looking to progress that over the next sort of few months while we carry on that program. Cloud9, as I said, we're into feasibility studies at the moment. We've got a resource upgrade coming for that when we go from indicated through to inferred, from that through to indicated and measured. That will be coming up in the next couple of months, as well as obviously the pre-feasibility and getting on the ground and drilling in Peru. That's us in our 10 minutes. So trying to stick to time for everyone because I know it's running a little bit late. I would encourage you to come out into the booth and have a bit of a chat if you wanted to talk to us a bit more. This presentation is up on the website in a little bit more detail. So please feel free to download that from there, but happy to answer any questions at the booth.
Thank you, Tony. Kaiser Reef owns 2 historic high-grade gold projects that are being actively explored. The company has just reported its first profitable operations and continues to release high-grade gold exploration results. Managing Director Jonathan Downs is here to present the exciting upscale opportunities that Kaiser is pursuing. Jonathan.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attendance. I'm pretty excited to be here to talk about Kaiser. It's a slightly unusual story. We are a small, fairly new company, and we are in production. And I'm pleased to say that we've started to make some real breakthroughs, which I'm hoping to share with you now. So the key focus for the company is the high-grade Victorian goldfields, and all the assets that you see here are owned 100% by us. And on the leases, we have historic production of 2.5 million ounces at pretty high grades. We are in gold production right now. We consider we have some fantastic exploration upside, which I will try and convince you of shortly. We've got a really talented operations team. Some of it's been bolstered very recently with some great results shining through already. And I won't tell you we're undervalued, but our market capitalization is about $28 million, and that gives an enterprise value of around $20 million, which I think makes us a pretty reasonably priced gold producer. We're composed of 3 assets, really, that we're focused on. The first is the Malden Goldfield. And Malden's situated between Ballarat and Bendigo, and historically it produced more gold than Ballarat did, in fact, from underground mining. It's produced over 2 million ounces in the field at 28 grams a tonne. And it hasn't really been given modern exploration. So this is what we're doing right now. We have a drill rig there. And I'll talk a bit more about that shortly. The second key asset we have is the A1 gold mine, possibly Australia's longest running gold mine. It's been running since 1861. And it has been primarily in the last several years mining remnant ore, not bad remnant ore. We've managed to ramp up our production, and last quarter we actually were operationally profitable for the first time. We've had a fabulous growth curve if you look at our last quarterly, and we delivered a head grade of over 9.5 grams a tonne gold, so pretty high grade ore as well. And then the third asset that's very valuable to us is the Malden Gold Processing Plant. We own that 100%. It would be a difficult process to permit a new gold processing plant in Victoria, and there are a lot of explorers around us. So we think that gives us a lot of latent value. I've only got 10 minutes, and this is not a 10-minute slide, so I'll actually skip over that one. And talk a little bit about Malden. So within our leases, 1.74 million ounces at 28 grams a tonne gold. I've removed the alluvial gold component there. It's on a granted mining license. It has an established modern decline with power and ventilation that runs over 2 kilometres underneath the town there, and it's only 2 kilometres from our processing plant. So this gives us a fantastic opportunity to leverage any exploration success into rapid production, and that's the plan. We have a diamond drill rig there at the moment. It's been going for some time, and I'll show you where it's actually been focusing on once I talk a bit more. Very quickly, I'll just mention that the Bendigo domain is probably all well known to you. It's having produced 79 million ounces of gold. Despite that extraordinary production, it really hasn't been a popular domain in Australia for a long time. And a lot of that has come down to, I guess, just a disinterest in high grade and narrow vein operations. It's really taken the Kirkland Lake Fosterville operations to turn that interest around. And up until 2003, Fosterville had only produced 290,000 ounces of gold. So it really is a modern success story in this goldfield. And I think there's quite a lot more opportunity in the whole of the Victorian goldfield going forward. This is a plan view, which highlights, I guess, where the lines of load sit in relation to each other. It's very coarse gold, and this is a photo of the drilling that's going on. I think this image is quite powerful. It shows you the decline that's been established and those loads. Some of these loads are significant, nearly 500,000 ounces at the Eagle Hawk Reef. On the left side there, yes, you'll see the Nuggety Reef. That Nuggety Reef is the confluence of a high-grade Victorian gold field hitting a granite unit that appears to have caused some remobilisation. And the Nuggety Reef produced 301,000 ounces at 187 grams a tonne, making it a pretty extraordinary mine. And if you look down plunge, there's been very, very little testing. And we have been drilling there recently, and we'll continue that. This is a plan view. Unfortunately, it doesn't include the Nuggety Reef, which is very exciting, but it also shows what I consider are a large amount of ore grade intercepts down here. And remember, if the grade's high enough, it doesn't have to be a wide load. 1 metre at 20 grams is the same as 2 at 10. We're mining 1 metre loads at day one, making good money out of it. And you can see at the bottom here some really spectacular widths, grades and mineable widths. So once we've completed the drilling down on the southern end there, where there was a historic resource, we're intending to reinstate that in the near future. And we're doing a fair bit of drilling down there. We're then planning to step out and start targeting down plunge of some of these magnificent high-grade shoots. And personally, I don't see any reason why they won't continue. The drilling that I just showed you clearly shows that they do continue with very high-grade mineralisation. So I really think this is an outstanding opportunity. And like I said, it's 2 kilometres from our mill. It's on a mining licence, and that decline has ventilation and power. So if I move on to the A1 mine, the A1 mine has produced 500,000 ounces at 26 grams a tonne of gold. That's recovered. It actually lost a bit in the old days. It was probably closer to an ounce a tonne at the head grade. And we have been really focusing on turning this operation around. It's been in care and maintenance mode, and we're trying to ramp up that production. As I said, last quarter, we delivered 9.6 grams a tonne to the mill. I'm pleased to say that this month to date, we're exceeding 23 grams a tonne, and the mill can barely keep up with the gold pours. So pretty exciting turnaround in the operations there. And part of the reason for that is that we're getting to deeper levels. We're getting to levels where the old timers couldn't ventilate, couldn't deliver power. And we're taking a diamond drill rig back here. We have delivered some spectacular results in the near recent past, and you'll see some of those down here, nearly 4 metres at 60 grams, 12 at 24, 20 at 12. Some of that stuff's the kind of stuff that we're seeing going through the mill. So really exciting gold project. It's an unusual ore body. It's not a typical Victorian sedimentary hosted. This is sitting in a diorite dike. And what we've done is a couple of really deep diamond drill holes through the middle there of that porphyry to show the diorite to show that it continues. And we've got it hundreds of metres below where we're operating right now. And we're right on the edge of where the old timers were. And some of the reason the gold grades have just shot through the roof with where we're mining is because we're hitting loads that were missed. And once every time we go deeper, we find more of them. We're also heading towards a thing called the Queen's Lode, which sits at depth. It's a big altered broad alteration zone within the diorite, and it's quite low grade by comparison at around anywhere between 5 and 8 grams a tonne. We just loaded and fired our first shot there, and that will potentially see our production go up a lot in the very near future. We don't have reserves, so I can't give you any guidance, unfortunately, but maybe at the bar later. You can see other dikes here as well, and we're quite excited by the potential here. You can see the A1 dike has been the target of all the historic mining. Towards the end or later in the mining, historically, they swung across to the A2 and started exploiting that. We are looking forward to drilling out the A2 and the A3, 4 and 5, and would be an easy exercise with our owned mining fleet to swing across to that as well in time. So plenty of exploration potential. We see some fantastic exploration upside going forward. So things are really turning around there. The gold processing plant, 180,000 tonnes per annum. We've got a very professional team operating that as well. And we're getting about 98% recovery the last couple of weeks, partially because of very high grades. So I guess nothing more to say on that. Great team, part of the local community, all local employment. Lovely part of the world to actually work in a mill at Malden. Some of our guys have ponies. I won't talk about the New South Wales exploration. Unfortunately, I'm completely out of time, but it is a backseat to the rest. It's getting harder and harder to find people to work at the mill these days. But Dylan's enlisted some local help with his children here, holding about $1.5 million worth of gold. So look, I think that finishes my presentation. I'd just like to finish on one very, very final note. Like I said, market cap's 28 million, and I think some readjustment is in order. Thank you very much.
Our next presentation is from Magnetic Resources, where Mr. George Sakalidis rejoices in the title of Managing Director. He joins us now, looking relaxed. George.
Always relaxed. Okay, it's good to be back again this year, and it's quite a bit of an update over that period, and we'll go through it in the next 10 minutes. This slide just gives you a bit of a summary. Projects are around Laverton. One of the ore bodies is 3 kilometres long at surface and shallow dipping. Another deposit, which we're drilling out, has some pretty thick intersections starting from surface. Most of our drilling, we've completed 100,000 metres, average around 69 metres in depth, so there's upside. Seismic surveys show the depth potential at depth, and we'll be testing that in 2022. We do have some Julimar lookalike projects, and we'll briefly mention those. And we have appointed Jefferies, a top 10 global investment bank, looking at opportunities for us, our neighbours and others, to do something with our gold project. We'll talk about that. Okay, so share price is $1.43. Market cap's around 320. You can see our share price performance since the discovery at Hawk's Nest. It's been very strong, very tightly held stock, mainly by high net worth investors. And you can see our projects are at Laverton, 2 of our projects, and another one at near Leonora called Homeward Bound, plus the nickel projects. So the history of discovery, basically soil sampling, discovered a very large anomaly. We've been drilling that since 2019. And then in 2021, we started drilling another project called Lady Julie with some excellent results. And only recently we drilled another project called Homeward Bound. So there's 3 projects that have emerged with very strong results. You can see where we're situated up at Laverton, Hawk's 9 and Lady Julie. And to the west is a project called Homeward Bound. It doesn't show up that well. Yeah, it's a little just in there. But there are some big mines in the area. There's about 40 million ounces being mined in the Leonora Laverton district. That's another snapshot. It shows our tenements in blue. The main focus has been the Laverton project, and you can see Homeward Bound. Okay, so we're 20 k's south of Laverton, but we're also 15 k's north of the Wallaby mine, 10 kilometres northeast of the Jupiter mine, and 35 kilometres north of the Sunrise Dam. So there's plenty of big plants there, and most of them are hungry, looking for more ore. And so we've been in that situation, and we're trying to maximise what we find. So some analogies here. 3 big ore bodies in the area have these stack loads, and they also have intrusions associated. Sunrise Dam has the intrusions generally at deeper levels, and that's what we kind of see in our projects. We don't see the intrusions hitting surface, but we see porphyries in stack loads, a bit similar to Sunrise Dam, but nothing's ever going to be exactly the same. Okay, we've talked about Hawksnest 9 before. It's 2.5 kilometres long. Every one of those intersections is an intersection greater than 2 grams per tonne, the purple ones. There's 2 coincident trends, the northwest and the northeast. And in that area is where we get stacked loads. And some of those bulk up, 104 metres at 0.8 grams per tonne. So that's quite an interesting area, and we've been chasing that to the north. And generally we see that thickened zone continue to the northeast. We haven't closed that off as yet. And as you go north of the thickened zone, we see these lode systems come to surface. And further north, it's almost flat lying. So that whole HN9 deposit will be probably a 2 kilometre long, 2.5 kilometre long open cut, obviously varying in depth, but the strip ratios will be quite modest, which make them very attractive. Recently, in 2021, we started drilling this part of the Lady Julie deposit, and we've had some outstanding thick intersections, some of them starting from surface, as you can see, 25 metres at 4.4 from 0. And below that, we've been hitting 18 metres at 4.7 from 142 and other deposits, other thick intersections. So that it's quite an amazing area, and we've been trying to enlarge that going southwards and also going northwards. This is another representation of those intersections, and again, you can see some very thick intersections, which makes it a pretty exciting project. Okay, now this is a bit of an overview, and we can highlight the HN9 deposit in here and that Lady Julie area that we've been looking at. We also been drilling this area to the south, and we're trying to connect these two over 1 kilometre length. At the same time, we've been testing an area up here called Lady Julie 4. And there, again, we're getting some pretty decent thick intersections. So these thicker intersections are quite attractive. And both Lady Julie and Lady Julie 4 have those intersections. So we're targeting the depth extent, and we're also trying to drill these out to an indicated category probably at the same time. So we expect these systems to grow, mainly because we see stacked loads, and that stacked load is a good example of what we see in the mines next door. Look, we've talked about the seismic previously. I think I missed a slide there. And basically we sit on these thrust zones which actually come to surface, and those thrust zones are the focal point, and we've been testing the north-south extensions of those. They're each about 6 kilometres in length, and some of them are undercover. So we've been testing those as well to see whether there's any other mineralisation in association with those thrust zones. It is unusual for an explorer to do seismic. The HN9 deposit kind of deserved it because it was such a significant discovery. In the Lady Julie area, we see these thrusts, ultramafic thrusts, thrust over the top of each other, and we also see these vertical faults, and that seems to be a pretty good area. And I guess the Lady Julie area seems to have those stack loads plus high-grade vertical veins as well. So I think the interpretation done by the seismic guys is pretty close to what we're seeing. Okay, so this is just to gives you a bit of an idea and a summary. These stack loads are similar to mines next door, where there's about 20 million ounces been found. The intersections are pretty thick at Lady Julie and north, and also Lady Julie 4. You can see some of the intersections. Those zones will be further tested, probably at depth and in infill. And we're trying to extend the size of these probably over the next few months. We haven't spoken about Homeward Bound, and Homeward Bound itself is along the Federation Sheet, which is about 5 kilometres long. That area we've tested, and there are some pretty decent intersections. We had a reinterpretation of the structure, and for that reason, we're going back in there and drilling a short program of 24 holes for 1,800 metres, and that's generally over 500 metre length. And we're trying to see whether we can get a decent resource out of this as well. So the focus is Lady Julie, Homeward Bound, and HM9. And last but not least, the Julimar lookalike. And I mentioned it previously, everyone's got a Julimar lookalike, but our Julimar lookalike looks more like Julimar than all the other ones. So if you believe that, we've got you can see Julimar's here, we've got 4 projects to the east, and that's the Benji Bearing project, which is the one that looks like Julimar. We also have the training and coral locking areas. You can see these intrusions here, they're 2 kilometres in length. So we're about to start drilling this and some of these features to the north. They've never been drilled before. And we've got access to that training area, so we'll be testing that. We're working on the access for the areas with the farmers as well on the other projects. And that's the correlation or the similarity between Julimar. You can see the Julimar complex is about 25 k's in length. Our project is about the same, but you can see the same shape, the gross structural shape. So you can see that notch area there, north-south areas to the south. So there is a lot of similarity, but obviously we'll have to go in there and test it with a bit of shallow drilling to start. If successful, we'll go in and potentially do EM surveys as well. So this little chart has been prepared by a corporate advisor, and you can see using the methodology, ground magnetic soil geocams and seismic, we've drilled to date, we've drilled over 100,000 metres. Some of the seismic areas we're doing additional drilling. We're defining near surface. And might I add, just to keep emphasising, this material outcrops, it's on the surface. So the strip is minimal. All our projects are the same. And we haven't deliberately targeted that way, but that's the way it's ended up. So the deep drilling that we're embarking is to see the depth potential and to see how big these systems are. And we are on a strategic review, which means we're talking to all our neighbours, plus any other interested parties, to see what sort of interests they might have. Given the number of processing plants in the district, we're happy to talk rather than spending hundreds of millions of dollars building a new plant. Thank you.
Black Canyon aims to be the dominant ASX-listed manganese explorer and developer in the Pilbara. Executive Director Brendan Cummins joins us with an update on the company's exploration portfolio, with a focus on the emerging manganese development project at Flanagan Bore. Welcome along, Brendan.
Jerry, appreciate the opportunity here from the RIU to present today. We're talking about something a bit different, manganese. I don't think there's anyone else talking about manganese at the conference, so hope we can keep your interest and keep you in the conference centre. Usual disclaimer. So, Black Canyon is a recently listed company. We listed on the stock exchange in May of last year, so it's been quite a busy period. Not even 1 year old yet. Got about $3.6 million in the bank. Got 41 million shares on issue, so it's a pretty tight structure. A really experienced board. I've been working with these guys for about 10 years. So it's good to know them, good to know who you're working with, and a very technical and experienced board as well. If you look at the shareholder base of BCA, it's fairly tightly held, 13% by board management, and the top 20 are controlling 39%. So, like I said, really tight structure. So hopefully through the course of this presentation, what I want to try to get across is the growth potential of Black Canyon. We are manganese focused. We're in the premier location in the Eastern Pilbara of WA for manganese. We're very fortunate that as the JV that we listed on, there were several walk-up drill targets, and we're starting to see the rewards from drilling those targets in December last year. We do have a strategy to develop. I guess the business we're in is to discover and develop. We don't need to go and find 100, 200 million tonnes of manganese. We want to find something that's going to hit that sweet spot, something that we can get into production. An experienced team who've also been involved in discoveries and developing projects. Here we go. So why manganese? I won't dwell too long on this one. Look, manganese is one of those, it's a great commodity to be in. The good thing about manganese is that its baseload demand is really in the steel industry. It's a 20 million tonne per annum export industry globally. 90% of that is used in steel, but there is increasing demand in the EV battery sector with the nickel, cobalt, manganese batteries. Obviously, the dominant chemistry now for lithium-ion batteries. So they're about 7% of the market share of lithium-ion batteries. And each of those batteries contain 10 to 30% manganese. So definitely a growing space for a future demand for manganese. Manganese pricing has been pretty stable for the past 4 or 5 years, hovering around that $4.50 type DMTU price range. So that's actually pretty good. Look, supply is really driven by what happens in South Africa. When there's disruption out of South Africa, the price does tend to spike. Traditionally, it was actually really quite a volatile commodity, but linked to the steel industry. So steel demand year on year just seems to be growing ever so. So Black Canyon, what we're looking for, what I like to say is that we're sort of in the Goldilocks zone from Port Hedland. So just get the right pointer. So around there, the projects are in that 200 to 300 kilometre range. There's Port Hedland up and through there. We listed on the tenements in the blue, which are Carrawine joint venture. We're earning 75% by spending $4 million over 5 years. Since then, we've been quite busy. We've picked up another 1,800 square kilometres of ground, which is all the red through acquisition or just pegging, looking for opportunities. We are looking for woody style hydrothermal manganese mineralisation, which is typically high grade, but also the supergene Balfour style mineralisation, which is it's very similar to the element 25 Butcherbird deposit. So pretty quickly, Flanagan Bore, one of the joint venture projects, has become, I guess, more of a flagship project for the company. It's only 2 hours from Newman, which is really handy for exploration. There was some historic drilling that we've managed to convert into a maiden mineral resource at LR1. When I first went to the project in June of last year, just after listing, I had quite a few of those, oh my gosh, moments. This stuff looks really good. There's plenty of outcropping manganese mineralisation. I mean, that's not uncommon throughout the Pilbara. You do see a lot of that mineralisation, but with the confirmation that we do have depth potential there, with the historic drilling, that started to tick the boxes. So had that resource released in October, had the rigs out there in December, and we drilled a pretty sharp 5,500 metres just prior to Christmas. I'm very familiar with every metre that was drilled because I was actually on the rig out there at that time, which was, as they say, character building. But, the drill program was, mission critical type of program, had to be done before the wet season kicks in so we could move on with the scoping study and get metallurgical test work. So we did RC and diamond drilling at that time. The results to date from LR1 have been really outstanding, exceeded my expectations. They were even better than the historic drilling that was completed previously in terms of grade and thickness. And also FB3, which is, FB3, which is this area, never been drilled before. When we're drilling that, what I saw there was very similar to what we're encountering up in that area as well. So fingers crossed when the assays come back, we'll be able to report on a discovery at FB3. There's a lot to take in on this slide. If you look at, so this area up here was the previous resource area. That's that 15 million tonnes that we delineated. This has been the resource expansion area. The intersections we got back from the first 20 holes have expanded the resource 600 metres to the south. So we're all over about 1,100 metres strike east-west and up to 800 metres north-south now. So substantially increase that resource, and we'll get cracking on the resource estimate update during March when all the assays are back in. What I really liked about it was obviously we had thickness, we got grade. The other key component to manganese is making sure you can beneficiate this material. And if you look at the drill core down at the bottom, you've got the top 15 metres of the hole. The top 15 metres of the hole is this segregated manganese shale type combination. Bottom 15 metres of the hole through here is really just slugs of manganese. These are about 100, 150 mil slugs of manganese just with clay. So we're really hopeful that in terms of beneficiating, we can replicate crushing, scrubbing, and then ore sorting to get a 30 to 35% concentrate out of that. But this material here, 3 metres at 15, if you add up all of those manganese slugs, there's about a metre at 45%. So if we can successfully remove this clay, then we'll go a long way to producing a high-grade concentrate from that material at LR1. So exciting times. That's just hit the lab the last few days, so we should be able to get results out of that fairly shortly. So as you do, once you start looking at this, you look over the fence and see what the neighbours have done. So I guess the closest analogy is the Butcherbird deposit, and you just want to make sure that you're getting that similar size, grade, scale potential. And if you look at those two sections on the right hand side, they're at the same scale, left and right, X and Y. So we are comparing like for like. The vertical exaggeration is off the chart. It actually isn't that dramatic, but you can see already we're well and truly getting cross-strike widths similar to Butcherbird, and also down-dipped intersections that are similar and often exceeding. So another tick in the box, I guess, for the LR1 manganese deposit. So in terms of geology and scale potential, we're seeing a lot of similarities, and hopefully that bodes well for future mining and processing. So Flanagan Bore, in a nutshell, look, it's a great location, Eastern Pilbara. We are growing resources at the LR1 deposit, and we'll also do further infill drilling over the course of the next few months. Making discoveries at FB3. When those assay results come in, I'll definitely breathe a sigh of relief to see those ones come in, and hopefully they'll be able to replicate some of the thicknesses and grade that we're seeing at LR1. We're also advancing a scoping study on the project as well. So we'll have a really early indication as to whether we think we've got something economic at LR1. The difficult part is actually trying to get consultants to engage, but we've lined up geotech, mining, hydrology, and of course metallurgical processing. So making sure we've got our ducks in the line in that respect. But wait, there's more. As I alluded to, we do have other tenements in the Eastern Pilbara. And Oakover East is one of the JV tenements. It's about 35 kilometres south of Woody Woody. There's 20 kilometres of drilling along strike that have, had reasonable success. So I can see one there, 7 metres at 33% from 2 metres surface. So that's that hydrothermal high-grade material. As you go further to the south at the SU1 project, it's fairly typical stratigraphy there. You've got the Pinjin chert over the top, and you've also got manganese mineralisation on the contact, and then Caroline dolomite at the basement. So we're really encouraged by what we're seeing there at early stage. We've had the benefit of Consmins drilling quite a bit in there, but there's still more work to be done there. And one of the targets I particularly like is this yellow area here. If you look at Woody Woody, 20 or 30 deposits that have been mined and delineated over the last 40 years. They're located really close to the contact with the Fortescue group through there. And This area here has never been drill tested, so we want to send out an IP crew out there to have a look at that, and hopefully we can get some anomalies and get some drilling into that as well. Just before Christmas, we also made a strategic acquisition of the Panther ground. It surrounds all the Flanagan Bore projects, so that's good. There's already multiple stratigraphic targets that need to be evaluated on that project as well. There are 2 targets that sort of stick out at the minute. This area here, which is we're calling Balfour West and Balfour East, surrounds ground. We don't own this ground in the middle, but there's 20 million tonnes. You're at 20%. We've got the strike extent to the northwest and also to the southeast. So once that tenement's granted, which isn't too far away, we're hoping to organise heritage surveys and get out there and put a few thousand metres into that. And the hurricane anomaly as well, which is located in this area over there. That's a hydrothermal style of mineralisation, not the manganese-enriched shale. That's what it looks like on the ground. Already, 10 metres at 21 from 3 metres, 12 at 16 from 3, including 4 at 29. So definitely very interested in that material. Just about done. So the investment thesis for Black Canyon is really quite simple. Really clear focus on manganese, well funded, with the right management and board to see the project through. A lot of news to come in the next 2 or 3 months, with the assays, metallurgical test work, scoping study progressing, and also mineral resource updates. So low EV, tight capital structure. It's really leveraged for success. Thanks for listening, and hope to see you on the registry at some point. Cheers.
Rox Resources Managing Director Alex Passmore is committed to bringing the historic workings at UME Gold Project back into production. He joins us now to tell us more. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you, Jerry, and it's a pleasure to be presenting again at the RIU conference, and thank you for hanging around for the late sessions. So it's been a busy 12 months for Rox. We've announced a large resource upgrade to our flagship UME project in Western Australia. So the resource for that project now sits at 3 million ounces at just under 4 grams. We announced that in January just gone, so about 4 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago. The 3 million ounce project importantly contains a high grade underground component of 2.2 million ounces at just about 7 grams, 6.9 grams. The resource remains open along strike and down dip. And in fact, we're discovering new parallel lodes. 39% of that resource is in the indicated category, which is drilled out on a 40 by 40 metre spacing. And then we're busy, this year converting the inferred component of that into indicated as well as growth drilling. Metallurgy at UME has been an interesting workflow for us over the last 12 months. So we've cracked the nut in terms of the sulfide ore bodies, which occur at depth, that high-grade ore body, with the Albion process showing 92+% gold recovery. We're now trying to optimise that and are having good success with doing that. So from here, we're working on feasibility studies at UME, and you'll see a scoping study come out in April, and then a more definitive feasibility study late this year. Rox trades on around $30 per ounce in the ground based on the UME resource. So just a quick snapshot of Rox, 158.9 million shares on issue, market cap of 70 million, cash at the end of December, 5.6 million, and that followed a substantial spend last year where we, to achieve that resource upgrade. We're well supported by a few institutional shareholders. But we do have a fair spread of shareholders given Rox has been around for about 20 years. So just looking at our checking in on our valuation, I suppose. So as an explorer, looking at comparable explorers, our valuation compares fairly favourably. So we're trading on that $30 an ounce that I mentioned versus an average across our relevant spectrum of around $100 an ounce. And we believe that's a good entry price, and it's set for a re-rating as we move the project to development. So Rox has two projects, UME and Mount Fisher. However, I've only really got time to talk about Mount Fisher today. UME today. So we'll leave Mount Fisher. There's more information at our booth if anyone's interested. So Rox holds the UME Gold project in a 70-30 joint venture. It's 135 kilometres southeast of Mount Magnet by road. It's a past producing mine, produced 670,000 ounces between 86 and 97. It shut down when the gold price was $400 an ounce Aussie. It's a high grade mine. The last parcel of ore mined from underground in 97 was 14.5 grams. So that would be making very good money at today's prices. So just turning to the mineral resource, given that it's new news from January. So you can see in the chart on the right-hand side there just the evolution and the resource growth at UME. So substantial increase driven by drilling. We use a 3 gram cut-off grade for our deeps resource, which compares favourably to the sector. That growth reflects 50,000 metres of predominantly diamond drilling over the last 18 months, but 35,000 metres more recently. We're discovering ounces at UME for $7 per ounce, which compares very well to industry averages. Importantly, that this resource and the increase to this resource has added ounces over key mining depth, so over 200 to 500 metres depth in terms of underground mining. So that was an area where previous mining had taken place along strike, and it was a very useful place to add ounces. So that was one of our focus areas. So just looking at the UME resource in a bit more detail, this is a long section, north to the left, south to the right. You can see that a large change in grade at 160 metres below surface. That really reflects how we split the resource at UME up. We split it into a near surface resource, which has a cut-off grade of 0.5 grams, and then the deeps resource cut-off grade of 3 grams. So therefore the average grade is a lot higher. The resource extends down to 1,000 metres, almost 1,000 metres below surface, but the majority of the ounces are between surface and 750 metres below surface. So we're looking at an open pit and underground operation here, and we'll be mining, mining and processing that material concurrently. We envisage a start with a cutback to the existing open pits and a portal at the northern end, or the left-hand side of that figure, getting into high-grade areas in the middle of the figure fairly quickly. Also to note in this figure, you can see the previous resource outline, dotted outline, and then the new resource is these colour-coded blocks, coloured by grade. So anything red or hotter is above 10 grams, and anything brown or better is above 6 grams. So our average ounce inventory per vertical metre is 2,900, and that is a rough rule of thumb in the WA gold sector. We know that 1,000 ounces per vertical metre probably makes a mine, 2,000 ounces probably makes a good mine, and 3,000 ounces makes a very good mine. So 2,900 ounces per vertical metre is a number that we're happy with, and indicates where the conceptual economics are going. The resource growth that got us to that number came from a long strike discovery called Link, which is a previously unrecognised area at UME, but also in new lodes in the hanging wall to the existing resource, and they just needed more drilling and more work and more structural interpretation than they'd had previously been given. Just turning to metallurgy, obviously very important when you're considering going into production. So of the 3 million ounce resource, 800,000 ounces is in near surface. It's all oxide and free milling. And of the deeps resource, the 2.2 million ounces, 75% of that is conventional milling. 25% of the gold in that ore is associated with arsenopyrite. And so that requires extra oxidation. The good news is the arsenopyrite at UME reacts well before the pyrite. And so when we look at the historical processing operations at UME, with a sulfur oxidation rate of 33%, the arsenopyrite was oxidized to 95% oxidized. So that, you know, that's where you get your gold. That's where we get the gold from. So there's very fast leach kinetics. We can get there in around 8 hours, according to our recent Albion test work. So looking at conceptual flow sheet, you know, and this is developing as we progress scoping studies and feasibility studies. As I was saying before, concurrent open cut and underground mining, 900. So we're looking at a 1.2 million tonne per annum plant, 900,000 tonnes of oxide at around 2 grams, and a sulfide component of around 300,000 tonnes at a mine grade of between 8 and 9 grams. The underground material goes into a sulfide float and then into an intense leach, and that may be Alban or it may be another process. So the added oxidation process is only for a small amount of the overall material. So just recapping on our progress to date at UME, we've drilled 50,000 metres in the last 18 months, delivered a substantial resource increase to 3 million ounces, been discovering those ounces for $7. We've built a management team capable of developing the project, and we're starting to look at the more, the more minute detail of building the project and financing the project. So next steps from here, to incorporate November and December drilling into a further updated resource. We're also updating our near surface oxide resource, and then ongoing metallurgical test work and plant design, as well as exploration drilling. So April for the scoping study, and late this year for a definitive feasibility study. Thank you.
Dean Tuck is Managing Director of Dreadnought Resources, and he joins us now to tell us what's been happening with Dreadnought.
Thank you very much, everyone, for showing up. Everyone online who's tuning in from over east and can't get in, it's probably pretty late. Hope your few wines in. I wish myself was a beer in at the bar at the moment, but hopefully the NIQ will give me the power to energy to get through this 10-minute power session. So it's a privilege to be here again to give you guys an update on Dreadnought Resources. We're gearing up for a very exciting 2022, and hopefully get this thing majigger to work properly as we get through this presentation and in time without running too much over. So company snapshot, some of the things I want to touch base on here. We have 3 company scale projects. You talked about last year, Paul Howard was, I think I might be in trouble.
You're a bit too big, mate.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, sir. So we have 3 company scale projects ranging from the Yilgarn up into the Kimberley. A lot of companies last year, I believe Paul Howard said it was the record IPOs on the market. There's a lot of new companies coming out onto the market. We have 3 projects that each by themselves could be a standalone company. And one of the things that those IPOs, a lot of them struggle to have, and one of the things that we've heard repeatedly over and over again at this conference, is that a lot of these companies don't have the team to put those projects to work. In the last 12 months, we've added 3 people to our team, 2 geologists and operations manager. We have a fully stocked, we have 5 geologists now, ops manager. We have the team in place. We have the projects that have the scale and the opportunity that we can deliver on these projects. And we're really looking forward to what we do with that. We are in the tier 1 jurisdiction of WA. We are building on our exploration success. Last year, we had our first hand-on heart discovery with Orion, massive sulfides up in the Kimberley. This year, we're going to find Orion's friends. We have the rare earth ironstone, similar to Hastings and Gabbana, which we're right next door to. We also have the carbonatites we recently discovered and confirmed rare earths. Gives us that blue sky opportunity on the rare earths of the Gascoigne project. We'll be drilling the EM conductors that we've defined with First Quantum at Mangaroon as well. And on top of that, we have our Nelson and Trafalgar VMS targets at Alar. We'll be drilling here in the next couple of weeks. And our in the background, on the back of those, I've told the team that this year I expect no less than 3 discoveries across our projects. And I think that's very easily attainable and I'll show you what we'll be drilling, what we'll be discovering this year. But as we've always done as Dreadnought, and as we do as an exploration company, diversified by commodity and geography, we always make sure we have that pipeline full of good projects. Alara, the Peggy Sue, the lithium potential there, we continue to progress while we're drilling at Alara. And the nickel potential at the Alara Greenstone Belt will be progressing in the background, hoping to have drill targets defined at those by mid to late year. And we also have, of course, the gold at Mangaroon and Alara whenever hyperinflation kicks back in. So we have a lot of really exciting projects and the commodities that the world needs, and we have the team to deliver them. And most importantly, we're fully funded. For the last 3 years, we've been living hand to mouth as we've gone from a 3 mil market cap to a 100 mil market cap, 3 to 4 capital raises a year. Last year, we raised 8 million. We still have 5.5 of that left. We're going to be drilling more in the next 6 months than we have in the last 3 years combined, and we're funded for that drilling. So when we buckle up, like I say, when we start drilling here in the next couple of weeks, buckle up because the drill rig's not going to stop. Start off with Alara. Next Thursday, the team's heading out here. Bit of background, picked this greenstone belt off of Alara, off of Newmont in 2019. We're going to be starting off with the Nelson and Trafalgar VMS targets, which I'll touch on a bit more detail here in a second. That's a near-term catalyst. It's a big share price movement, bit of surprise, back pocket potential discovery sitting there with that. You know, we looked at Chalice with the Julimar discovery and they never talked about that until they drilled it. Hopefully this could be a nice little surprise back pocket thing for us as well. We'll also drill the Metzke's find, finish off that resource, the top 40 meters, tighten that up, a little gold at Spitfire, the King's iron ore we've been talking about for a while. We got distracted last year with Mangaroon. That's what happens when you kick over some outcropping rare earths that no one's ever seen before. So we'll be putting some holes into that to make sure that extends undercover. There's a few producers nearby that are interested in that, and we're just gonna make sure it's there so we can agree on the price. We also have the, in the background while we're drilling, like I said before, the lithium, Peggy Sue, and also the nickel potential at Alara we'll be looking at. So be a big 4 to 6 weeks. We'll be drilling out here, 2,000 meters roughly for the VMS, the gold and the iron ore, and also doing that work on Peggy Sue and Alara in the background. Like I said, we have the team in place now. We'll get this work done. It's gonna be a very eventful couple of weeks. Nelson and Trafalgar. So Nelson is a 1.5 kilometer long, strong VMS anomaly, copper, lead, zinc in soil. Trafalgar is a very interesting mag blip that was sitting out in the middle of a thick felsic package, a bit undercover. We finally got the EM crew out there early this year, and we've defined 8 EM targets, highly conductive, sitting associated with those magnetic anomalies and also the surface geochemistry. They discovered Tonic Bore and Golden Grove. We're looking for those sorts of models here, and that could certainly be an exciting development for us. We'll find out here in 2 weeks' time. Moving on to Mangaroon. So after we finish drilling at Alara, we'll move on up to Mangaroon, end of March, start of April, depending on access and how the drilling goes. First mover access here, we only pegged this ground just over a year ago. In that year, we pegged the ground for the nickel. We've since identified the outcropping pentlandites and chalcopyrites, did the joint venture with First Quantum, done a lot of work. It's been fantastic working with First Quantum. Next steps there is going to be drilling about 1,200 meters. We've also stumbled upon the rare earths, which was certainly a nice surprise and caused Mangaroon to outperform for us last year. Next door to Hastings, and we have about 12,000 meters of RC drilling going into that. We're going to scope out the rare earths. We're going to prove that they're there, make that discovery, and then flip around and put a resource on that straight away. Hastings has done it before, and we'll be doing it as well. And in the background, of course, we have a bit of gold and some regional stream sets. We'll talk a bit more about the rare earth ironstones, a lot of rare earths. There's a lot of risk in rare earths, so we wanted to make sure that before we start talking about it, that we de-risk this as much as possible. Very thankful that Hastings has been there for about 10 years, de-risking this project, proving the metallurgical flow sheets, and they recently got funding from the government to get into production. Very, very exciting. The more work that we do, as we've done the airborne EM, as we've done the radiometric surveys, as we've been out there on the ground, boots on the ground, checking out these anomalies, we're continuing to see our ironstone Hastings equivalent prospects grow in size and scale. And we continue to believe that we will see this evolve into the other half of Hastings, Yangibana, hence the cheeky name of Yin, the Yin to Yang. Very excited what that comes up with. We've already proven metallurgical testing. Even before drilling, we hoofed out 60, 80 kilos of samples on our backs, took it through the same flotation flow sheet that Hastings used, and we've proven that we can create a high high grade, high neodymium, praseodymium concentrate that's in quite high demand by Lynas, by Hastings, and by Iluka, all building monazite processing plants here in Western Australia. In the blue sky on the rare earths. So since 1991, since Newmont was exploring out here, everyone's been wondering where the source intrusions are to these rare earth ironstones and the neodymium high grade niobium veins that are sticking out around this area. And it was on the back of the detailed magnetic survey, sitting right on the Lions River Fault. We identified 5 ovoid magnetic features that looked quite interesting, previously mapped as carbonates, not too far off. They're just not limestones, they were magmatic. And we've gone out there, and that's Luke Blaze sitting there squatting over some oxidized carbonatites over what we call junior. And sure enough, that stuff came back at over 2% total rare earths. So the Hastings Yangibana ironstone equivalents, we think we are seeing the other half of that. What these carbonatites turn into certainly have the scale to blow that away. So we're very, very excited to put a lot of drill holes into this thing to see what it turns into. And that drilling will be kicking off right after Alara, probably in April. Before we drill the rare earths, we'll drill the first quantum joint venture. So we've mapped over the 50 strike kilometers of the money intrusion, identified over a kilometer long Dawsonus horizon, proving mineralization is here. Also, we had the proof in the sulfides that we had been mapping along the way. And EM survey has identified a coincident conductor with that Dawsonus horizon. This is very, very exciting and a big result for us. You know, the tenor of these sulfides, you know, this could be a disseminated system. This could be a network sulfide system. And that would be extremely economic, similar to Zhenchuan with the tenor of these sulfides. The fact that we have a conductor of any sort here shows that there's some nice connectivity between those sulfides. And we're really looking forward to putting a hole into that conductor and 2 holes to the north and 1 to the south into that Dawsonus horizon, as well as the other conductor and a few wildcat holes. Looking forward to drilling that as soon as we finish up with Alara as well. Once we finish with Mangaroon, we'll continue like gray nomads all the way back up to the Kimberley and get up to a Taraji Yampi project. This is what Dreadnought was founded on, off limits since 1978. Roy Woodall, last man himself to explore in 1958. Mineralization sticking out of the ground, discovered by prospectors, probably a lot of Aboriginals up there in the 1900s, some original mining at Grants and Wilson's. Roy Woodall went out there in the 1950s to evaluate these things, put a few drill holes into it, confirmed the copper sulfide in these outcropping veins. The majority of this ground is obscured by some black plain soils and transported material. Last year, we drilled the Orion prospect, went through 1 meter of cover, no outcrop expression at all whatsoever, and hit massive sulfides. We've EM and magnetics has modeled those sulfides down to 500 meters. We've drilled that down to about 150 meters depth over 250 meters strike. This thing is going to continue to grow. We'll get the diamond rigs up there next year, in addition to the RC rig, this year. And we'll test this thing down to 500 meters and see how big it is. But one of the big things that we learned from Orion, and one of the things I'm excited about, is the fact that through that transported cover, just 1 to 5 meters down, we can actually see a really well-developed dispersion halo in that top meter of saprolite. We can test that with an auger rig. We can get that auger rig up and operating in March or April this year. We're going to get started early in the Kimberley. We're going to do 3,000 auger holes up here across all the prospective horizons along Orion and across the Taraji Yampi project. And we're going to really highlight Orion's friend. And that's going to be a very high impact program. And when we get up there with the RC rig, we'll be drilling near surface geochemical anomalies, and hopefully one of those will turn into as good, if not better, than what we have already at Orion. So once we start drilling, takeaway message, we're not going to stop. So whether you're interested in the copper, the nickel, or the rare earths, buckle up. It's going to be a great year. Thank you very much.
Allan Kelly is a geologist, geochemist, and manager with close to 30 years' experience in mineral exploration, development, and production throughout Australia and the Americas. He was the founding MD of Burley Minerals, which listed on the ASX in early 2010. He's executive chairman of Miramar Resources, which listed in October 2020, and has outlined a potential camp-scale gold discovery at its Gidgee JV project in the Eastern Goldfields. Welcome, Allan.
Jerry, and thanks again for RIU for the opportunity. We're a new company. We only listed back in October 2020. So this is our first presentation at the RIU Explorers Conference. With 10 minutes, a bit of a whistle-stop tour through our projects. So I'd ask you to have a look at our website and come by the booth if you want to have a chat about what we're doing. But the main investment highlights I'd like to get across in the next 10 minutes or so is focused mostly on our Gidgee project, which is just north of Kalgoorlie. We think that there's potential there for a new gold camp, given the location. Most of the work we've been doing to date has been focused on the Marylebone target, which we think looks a lot like Paddington. And we've got a number of drill targets there that we've identified for testing. Our second project at Glandor is very underexplored. It's about 40 k's east of Kalgoorlie. There's a number of high-grade historic diamond drill results at up to 6 metres at 30 grams. And in the last sort of 12 months, we've identified a very large gold system there with air core drilling on the lake and the land, and we'll be looking forward to getting out there again shortly. We've got a number of other opportunities as well. We've got a very large project up at Onslow, which is called Whale Shark, where we think there's potential for ICG mineralisation. We've got a number of targets up in the Bangamore, not that far away from where Dean was just talking about, and we think that there's potential for nickel copper PGEs in an area that's been identified by both GSWA and the Geoscience Australia. And we've got an underexplored banded iron formation sitting right next to Silver Lake's operations out at Randalls. Away from the project side, we've got an experienced board, found and built things. We're very active on the ground. To date, we've spent about 75% of our cash on the ground, very low overheads. We're out there doing work and producing regular news flow. And I don't have a corporate slide here, but our market cap's about 10 million. So we've got a very low EV. So if we have further success, there's a lot of leverage and upside in our share price. So this is our main project, Gidgee. It's a joint venture that we own 80% of. It's right on the outskirts of Kalgoorlie. You can see that from that Google Earth image. We're surrounded by major gold deposits, obviously the Super Pit, Canal Paddington, and sort of off to the left you'd see Kandana area. What we liked is this Burrara shear zone. It's a very large mineralised structure that runs from Golden Ridge and Burrara down at southeast through our project and up to Paddington, where it then hits the Abattoir shear and becomes the Bardock shear zone. So, a big mineralised structure with a big obvious dilational jog in it. When we started looking at it, we realised that it was a very underexplored project, which was quite surprising given the proximity to Kalgoorlie and the fact that it sits right on the highway as well. So pretty soon after listing, we got out there and we started air core drilling. We focused in pretty quickly on what we now call the Marylebone target. We think there's potential for a large new discovery there. The geology, the structure and the footprint looks very similar to Paddington without 20 or 30 years worth of work. So far, we've defined a 2 kilometre long air core gold footprint with multiple results over 2 grams per tonne and up to 13 grams per tonne in air core. That's open to the northwest. We're waiting on a lot of assays at the moment, like a number of people. And we're currently doing an RC program, the first real RC program, going right across the guts of the main anomaly there to see what the geology looks like. Now, the reason this is sitting here is that there's about 40 metres of transported cover over the top of it, plus paleo channel sediments. And all the previous work that was done here, most of the drill holes were only sort of 25 to 40 metres deep. They were angled and in many cases, they didn't penetrate that transported material. So we're the first people to actually get out there and drill through that transported cover and into the basement. And we're seeing, as I said, a lot of similarities to Paddington. As a result of that process of drilling Marylebone, we've actually just defined a couple of other, on echelon targets. So to the west, just off in the Black Flags, we've got a number of 1 gram hits in a prospect we now call Blackfriars. And then over the Christmas break, I was looking at some historic auger anomalism, and there's a 1 kilometre long auger gold anomaly that sits under the highway that's never had a single drill hole in it. So, everywhere we look on this project, there's, multiple targets to test. Why we really like this, again, is a similarity to Paddington. So this is Marylebone and Paddington at the same scale. I don't know how well you can see it, but this unit through here is the Paddington dolerite, which hosts the mineralisation there. There's a jog there and some north-south structures. It's basically exactly what we're seeing here. These dotted lines are magnetic anomalies, which we think correspond to dolerite units. And so, yeah, again, I'll say the geology, structure and the footprint of this very, very similar to Paddington. And we're testing the bedrock basically for the first time. So we're very excited to see what that RC drilling will show us, whether we're onto something below those echo anomalies. If you look at the entire land position, it's very underexplored. It's about 15 kilometres from end to end. When we listed, only the central portion was granted, sort of this area in here. So that's why we went and started drilling there straight away. Mid last year, we got the rest of the tenement package granted. So one of the key areas that we want to look at this year is this 4 kilometre segment here of the Burr shear zone closer to Paddington. I've shown all the historic drilling greater than 40 metres, and you can see how underexplored that Burr shear zone is. And away from the shear zone, there's not much drilling at all. One of the other interesting targets is a thing called the jog, which sits in this obvious dilational jog here. Couple of things going on there. The magnetic signature of the mafic and ultramafic rocks gets destroyed in that jog. So, you know, it looks like there could be some alteration there. And there's a nice gravity high sitting right underneath it. So we're pretty keen to get out there and put an RC rig over the top of it. To the south of us, immediately on our southern boundary, there's a deposit called Runway, which is about 300,000 ounces. Northern Star have started drilling that last December, and they've been very busy drilling diamond holes right up to our tenement boundary. So we're keeping an eye on that, and we're looking at probably putting in a EIS application for a couple of deep diamond holes to see if we can see what's going on there. So in terms of exploration for this year, as I said, we're at RC drilling at Marylebone. That'll be followed up by air core drilling at Blackfriars and Highway. We're going to get a drone out to do some drone mags to infill the magnetic data up at this northern end and follow that up with some air core. And then we've got a number of other targets that we want to test as well. If we move over to Glandore, as I said, Glandore is about 40 kilometres east of Kalgoorlie. It's just north of Black Cat's project where they're going to build the mill at Majestic, and then Silver Lake is just to the south of that. Most of the project sits on the southwest corner of Lake Indalguda. We went out and did some air core drilling on the lake last year, and we've defined a very large gold footprint over about 5 kilometres of strike, with multiple holes ending in plus 0.25 grams per tonne. We put out some results on Tuesday morning from some resplits and infill holes, and we've defined this very large 1.8 kilometre long trend of gold, silver and pathfinder anomalism in air core. But one of the key targets at Glandore is a series of diamond holes that were drilled by Harmony and then Anglo Gold Ashanti in this little hook in the lake here. And there were some really nice hits there in quartz veins on the edge of the granite running up to 6 metres at 30 grams. As a result of our air core, we think that there's potential for a number of northeast striking structures within this granodiorite intrusion. And that looks very similar to what you see at Majestic and Imperial to the south. And if that's the case, it means that a lot of this diamond drilling here tested the wrong strike and also potentially the wrong plunge. And there's a whole section in here that hasn't been drilled because it's effectively like a sand dune within the lake, which the diamond drilling couldn't go onto. Whale shark, this is our large target up near Onslow. It's under sediments of the Carnarvon Basin. We did some MMI sampling, got some very large copper rare earth signatures that look similar to something like Javieron. So we've got some work to do this year, which will include some interface air core drilling. And then the Bangamore, where we took a big land position sort of 2019, 2020, on the basis that we thought there was potential for this craton margin style nickel copper PGE mineralisation. This is the atlas that Geoscience Australia produced which Chalice used to target the Julimar area. So you can see that the Bangamore gets highlighted in that. We put out some EM data last week from one of our projects there that looks very exciting. So we're going to be up there mid-year. In terms of a pipeline, we've got projects sort of at all stages of the pipeline. Obviously, most of the focus is going to be at Marylebone and Glandore, but we've got a few other irons in the fire. So just to reiterate, we think we've got a great opportunity at Gidgee with a Paddington lookalike at Marylebone. We've got a number of other opportunities there at Glandore, Randalls, Whale Shark, and in the Bangamore. We've got an experienced team, and we're out there on the ground producing results and news flow. And I think there's a lot of upside from where our current position is. Thanks very much.
Traka Resources is a minerals exploration company working to unlock the potential of the Mount Catlin Gold Project in southwest Western Australia. Managing Director Patrick Verbeek earlier sent us this project update.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Urgent travel and COVID has prevented me from joining you, which I'm very sorry about, but I'm sure you'll all understand that's our collective lot at the moment. But enough of that, I'd like to go straight on to my presentation, and I'm pretty excited to tell you about what we're doing. And firstly, I'll give you the location and go on from there. And here's our disclaimer. I urge you to read that in your own time. And here's where Mount Catlin Gold Copper Project is. Ravensthorpe town, halfway between Albany, Esperance. 2 kilometres to the north is our project, which is quite small, but importantly captures the bulk of the known gold copper mineralisation. There's a dozen or so old mines in there. We've got the Mount Catlin lithium mine next door. 20 kilometres down the road is the Medallions Ravensthorpe Gold Project, currently being evaluated as well. So richly endowed for typical of so many of the greenstone belts in the Archean. We started work here last year. We want to convert that exploration license to a mining lease, so we quickly defined a mineral resource on 2 of the better known prospects. We completed IP, detailed aeromagnetics. We've done some downhole, building up our knowledge base quickly. We've just finished our second drill program. We're frustratingly delayed by long lead times in the laboratory. We've got a lot of assays awaited, but already enough that makes us pretty excited about the future of this project. It has a bit of a funny history. The gold's always been known about, but there's no work done there since 2004, and that's because we were in JV with Galaxy, and the emphasis switched to lithium, and because they're exclusive lithium company, the gold and copper potential languished, and so a couple of years ago we rejigged that arrangement. Alcan will continue to keep the lithium potential, and but Traka now has got back the gold, copper, and anything else we might find. Here's the sort of old history. 23,000 tonnes at just under an ounce, typical of turn of the century mineralisation. But more importantly, you very clearly see, even though without the details, all the prospects are all clustered in about a 3.5 kilometre ellipsal sort of shape with everything in it. And the reason they're clustered is because they're all share the same geological setting. We know now to be a multiple intrusive phase porphyry system that sits on the edge of this large main-up tonalite, which is where the lithium dikes come from. The JORC resource we defined is 165,000 tonnes at 3.9. Like I said, it was really just to achieve conversion. They're open and just an indicator of what we will get very quickly. This is a little bit more detail of that same 3.5 kilometre wide circular feature, this time draped over aeromagnetics, and you can clearly see why we interpret it this way. There's a number of aeromagnetic highs, some of them coincident with these gold geochem anomalies, some not. So, and these aeromagnetic anomalies we know now are sort of a skarn style mineralization, we believe, on the edges of individual intrusives. There are some late stage northwest trending structures passing through it, so that's complicated the picture a little bit, but probably enriched gold mineralization along those structures is one here. We internally call the New Zealand line, about 1 kilometre long, with a bunch of chutes there. I'll show you an example a bit later. We've been drilling along this trend in through here. I'll give you some examples. We drilled this, I'll show you that, and give you an idea of why we're so excited about the potential for this intrusive complex to deliver some meaningful and larger tonnes and grades. Next slide, there's the Maori Queen mineralisation. We drilled down to about 100 metres. We've only really defined this 31,000 tonnes down to 100 odd metres. We picked up footwall and hanging wall mineralisation. You know, we know that that can be tripled, quadrupled and drilled to depth. Although we're not pursuing that at this stage, we want to look at the bigger picture. But that gives you an idea what that's like, sort of narrow, high grade type operations. Another style is at Sirdar. Here's 5 sort of interfingering chutes that are very rich. We drilled it down to where it is intruded by this fairly flat-lying pegmatite dike. These are the sorts of dikes that Alcan would be interested in looking at lithium for. This one doesn't appear to be particularly enriched in lithium, but we did IP over this, and you can see that there is a coincident IP anomaly with this mineralization. It goes down. We pushed one hole down and we clipped one of these chutes, 1.6 metres at 19 grams, you know, a higher grade portion in the middle of it. There's a few more holes into that now. We're waiting for the results for those, but it just, you know, there's an open pit up there, we would think, and there's plenty of potential for that to go underground in the fullness of time. Lots of work to do, of course, but just to give you an idea of what the sorts of things that we're looking at. This is another example. We're looking at an aeromagnetic image. You see there's a trend through here. That red is gold geochemistry. We popped 6 holes in there, 19 metres at 1.2, 11 at 2.5, 8 at 1.2, gold, copper, silver associated. I'll give you a cross section. This is part of a 1 kilometre trend. This is what it looks like in cross section. So that the blue is the sort of copper halo, if you like, and the gold inside it. There's 19 metres at 1.2, 11 metres at 2.5. So coming to surface, mineralisation well below the supergene zone. So quite exciting things to get on with. Another example of prospect here, again, another 4 or 5 holes. 2 at 5.5, 3 at 6, 3 at 4, 4 at 15, distinctly associated with both geochem and magnetics. So again, something to follow up. Quite exciting. That's what it looks like in cross section. Excuse me. The gold, the blue is again the copper and the gold inside it. So again, it's just a matter of walking up and drilling on with some of these things. And next slide is another example. This is the revelation target. Excuse me again. This is a plan view of a vertical 400-metre round intrusive. We appear now to have drilled one side of the core, and with some wide intersections of copper gold there. We did some downhole EM, and we've got 3 conductors, and these conductors are funny orientation. We think there's a shear terminating or up against that intrusive. So there's unfinished business there. So just some examples of what we're dealing with, and there's a dozen of these opportunities. Sorry again. A dozen of these opportunities, which, of course, in combination, give us an excellent opportunity to build up a resource base there. So this slide just gives you a bit of a roundup on that. So we're working in the right area. We're certainly highly leveraged to some good drill hole results, and an exciting sort of advanced project to get on with. Here's the obligatory resource table, which gives you some of the details, and that pretty well covers it. Thank you very much.
Altan Rio Minerals, who's a Canadian-listed WA-focused gold exploration company, primarily focused on the Southern Cross Greenstone Belt, a prolific gold-producing region responsible for well in excess of 12 million ounces. We welcome Chairman John Jones.
Thank you very much, sir. So mindful of the time, so we'll jump straight in and with respect to the next speaker behind me. Look, the Southern Cross, why Southern Cross? 34 years ago, I was part of a team that rescued Troy Resources, and we successfully operated a few mines there and fled to sandstone for better days and disappeared overseas to many other countries. So it happens in the Altan Rio team, there's probably about 5 ex-Troy employees, consultants, and privileged to be here. There's Greg Wilson, who's sitting on a drill rig up at the pilot mine north of Southern Cross as we speak. Obviously, he's knocked off early. And so that pretty well plays it out. And there's Paul Stevens, who's the executive director of Altan as well. So we would like to think we know what we're doing. And obviously the Yilgarn Creighton situation there, as you've probably seen, you can locate where Kalgoorlie is, and there's nothing wrong with the Southern Cross Belt. 12 million ounces has been produced, and as I go through, you will see 75 kilometres west, there is one mill, the Ramelius plant at Westonia, and Bardo Gold is 35, probably from the bottom end of our tenements, just north of Southern Cross, down at Marvel Lock. So it's always nice to be exploring where we know we're not confronted with finding enough ore, enough ounces to justify building a plant. The tenement situation is described here. The tenements in red were cut scale back, going right back to the 90s and early 2000s sort of thing. And you will see that we have increased our land position by 5-fold. We're right up underneath the Copperhead mine up near up the top, Copperhead, and down the bottom, obviously, we're on the boundaries of the town site, and I'll explain a bit further. This just shows you it's not all moose pasture, and if you look in this area, we have some prospectivity for nickel, which we chased up wearing a Troy hat that needs to be followed up. There is some PGMs mapped up here by geologist Wally Witt, and people are chasing, we believe we've got lithium prospectivity. But sticking with gold, moving on, you can see the greenstone belts within our white bordered tenements, and I draw your attention to the pilot mine. Sorry, I'll go back one. You'll see the pilot mine there. I'll focus on that because that is our current exploration focus. And moving quickly, there's been a lot of drilling estimated to be about $10 million worth, and probably about 130,000 metres of various drilling. And clearly going back through the years, the decades, a lot of it was too shallow and kind of irrelevant. This also, just the long section through some of the distance, just indicates very little drilling has been done below 50 metres. There are about 28 targets. Coincidentally, we took on the project, Altan Rio, 80% of it, and we ended up doing a deal with Barto at Pilot, traded some ground, and that became an extra target, and that's clearly been our focus in the last 12 months. So you can see the little yellow circles there, gives you some of the target areas that we've come up with. You can see Southern Cross towards the bottom. Now getting to Pilot, this is down in the deeps of Pilot, unmined. You can see, you could forgive someone like myself that's been hanging around underground mines since the days of North Kalgoorlie. Those sort of grades are kind of respectable. Some of our current drilling is probing immediately under this sampling done by Great Western Consolidated in 1961. So we'll see what that does. You'll see here where the blue lines are some of the initial downhole EM conductors that we've identified. So the reason why we will, I think, in the near future, continue to have more success. There's pyrrhotite sulfide there, which is kicking off the EM conductors, and that will keep us under control. The Bellevue fellows can tell you how helpful EM anomalies have been in quickly chasing ore bodies, and the more pyrrhotite and the mineralisation we've been identifying, usually the higher the gold price, the gold sampling values. Just more of a cross section. Time doesn't permit to go into too much detail. We'll be on our website, of course, and we'll be at the booth tomorrow if we can help you. This gives you, we've obviously been investing quite a bit in EM work around the Pilot mine, and you can see these conductors all augur well, and we're heading towards Southern Cross. This is the old Hopes Hill mine, which a lot of people will remember, and this conductor here is quite fascinating. It's quite long. It's very strong. And it's kind of heading, you could argue, well, it's heading down towards Hopes Hill, but we can't explain these conductors, but sure as hell going to be a bit of fun putting some holes into them. And we're not on farmlands, but there's plenty of farmlands here as well. Obviously, there's cash flow chats, but let's just focus on the geological side. We're planning to do some deep holes. We already have a funding offer from the government, which we'll do these immediate holes that we're doing, 11 drill holes, and we'll immediately announce the results when they come to hand. This is a bit fascinating, I think. You see Southern Cross town sites here. The Fraser mine was one of the high-grade mines, and so was the Golden Pig mine here. We obviously have the strike extensions, lots of gold occurrences. Why do we have 4 kilometres here where there's sniffs? And we may have trouble doing EM there, but there's some other gravity work we could do in there. So quite happy that we've got a fair bit, a lot of work to do. And it's obviously, we're very close to all other mines, old mines, and lots of sniffs. And just finishing up quickly, you will see, we obviously believe we have a strategic land holding in the area. There's a tight capital structure, 12 cents a share. I can know we do have a TSX listing, but the rest of the company is operating in Australia, in West Perth, Australian auditors, Australian share register control. And we just have a lawyer sitting, keeping us on the straight and narrow in Vancouver. And I see that we sort of keep within the requirements of the TSX listing. We are heading towards an Australian listing pending, and that is getting slightly easier for us. And what comes out of this, our strategy is to see, well, how many tonnes and of what approximate grade is this mineralisation that we're drilling out at pilot, and that could help us with our Australian listing. Obviously, a strong management team. And clearly, someone like myself would be very keen to fast track the mine development at pilot, because that's the most advanced project, but dying to sort of spread out and test some other. We have a lovely 1.3 kilometre target north of the Golden Pig mine. We have a mag high there. We have up to 3 grams in shallow drilling, 1 and 2 grams, which is a very good soil anomaly. So there's every possibility that we can, we need to grow more ounces, but pilot is a very obvious spot to be. Thanks very much. Sorry you're so late. We're all late.
One of mining industry's legends, John Jones. Well, our final presentation, we've kept the best for last. I have to say that to stop you running out of the room. Jindalee Resources are developing the second largest lithium deposit in the USA, whilst making plans to explore the mineral-rich fields of Wijimultha. To wrap up today's session, we welcome Chief Executive Officer Karen Wellman. Welcome, Karen.
Very much for having me, and thank you all for sticking around. I know we're well over time at the moment, but I'll try and make this worth your while. You'll be happy that you heard this story. And then, yeah, in about 10 minutes time or less, we'll go have a nice cold beverage. I'll tell you now, I've got 10 slides. So you can watch that magic number down the bottom. That's your countdown to escaping today. Right, so we've only got 10 minutes and that's not really enough time to cover everything that Jindalee has to offer, but I'm going to pretty much focus on these 2 projects. So one is our McDermott Lithium project we've got in the United States. That's a sort of resource development stage. And the other one is our Wijimultha project here in Western Australia, a bit closer to home, just down the road, and a pretty good piece of real estate. I've chucked in some corporate information, but I will not spend much time on that due to these time constraints, but gives you a bit of an indication of where Jindalee are. We've been around since 2002 and follow a project generator model where we add value for shareholders through a simple model of acquiring tenements, developing them, moving them up the value chain as far as we can, and then looking to deal them. It's a self-funding exploration model, essentially. So this is the McDermott Lithium project in the United States. It's, you know, they say a picture says 1,000 words, so I'm going to talk to this picture initially. So those mountains you can see in the background, that's the rim of the McDermott caldera. So essentially imagine that you're inside a volcanic crater looking out. Once upon a time, 16 million years ago, this was a crater lake, and the lake became super enriched with lithium leaching into the water through hydrothermal alteration and degassing of the magma chamber underneath. The hotspot then sort of moved on up the road. It's where Yellowstone National Park is now, as a bit of a random fact for you. So then the lakes, you know, the sediments have been exhumed from the bottom of the lake, and this is the material that you can see here. Oops, wrong button. The material you can see here, these are the mineralized lithium sediments sitting at surface, and that hill is about 40 meters high, and the mineralization continues down for another 100 meters below that. So it starts to give you a bit of an idea of the size and the scale of this project. I mean, the fact that it's flat-lying, mineralized at surface, geologically, the grade is very continuous. It goes for kilometers. It gives you a very big, large resource, and it's very positive for like open pit economics. They're quite different. The sediment-hosted lithium deposits are quite different to your brines and your pegmatites. This is emerging as a new source of lithium in the world. But they have all those characteristics I've just described. Because of the continuity, we've drilled 29 holes into this project before April last year. And with those 29 holes, we were able to put out a mineral resource, which made McDermott the largest lithium resource at the time in the United States. And that number was 1.43 billion tonnes at 1320 ppm lithium for 10.1 million tonnes of lithium carbonate equivalent. To give you a bit of context as to how that sits with something a bit more familiar, the Greenbushes deposit down the road here currently has a mineral resource with 8.9 million tonnes of lithium carbonate equivalent. So you can start to feel why we get excited about the project and why we continue to work on it. These deposits are a bit different to the brines and the pegmatites in that it's going to be more of a chemical processing operation on site here. So we'll take the dirt out of the ground, we'll process it, and we will produce the end product. So whether it's a lithium carbonate or a hydroxide here on site. So there's no moving of concentrates down the road. It's very short turnaround. You're talking sort of days from out of the ground to your carbonate rather than your months or years. And we did a scoping study at the end of last year. And I just want to make a point with that one. At the time, lithium prices, we were using a long-term lithium price of about $11,000 a tonne lithium carbonate. If you've been paying much attention, that gave us a positive NPV on the project at that point. So if you know what's happening in the market right now, you're getting spot prices up in the realms of about $50,000 a tonne. So you don't have to be too much of a mathematician to work out or what that does to your bottom line. Just a little bit of a picture of where it sits. So McDermott sits up here in Oregon, sorry. Just on the Oregon-Nevada border. So while that picture looked like it was in the middle of nowhere, it's not really, you know, it's fairly well accessible. Since we did our mineral resource, we've been overtaken with the largest lithium resource, and that's the one to the south here at Thacker Pass. So this yellow line, that's the rim of the McDermott caldera. So inside it, you've got Thacker Pass, the largest lithium resource in the US, followed by us as the second largest. So it's a very special place in the States, this area. And yeah, it's not in the middle of it's not in the middle of nowhere. You know, we've got the main highway running north-south, about 25, 30 Ks away. And that eventually sort of runs down to the Tesla Gigafactory about 200 miles away. So the project is pretty well positioned to be able to feed into the supply chain of critical minerals in the US. And I'll keep moving. I won't talk too much about, you know, we're pushing towards electrification. You know, all the automakers are getting on board now with their targets. So, and as I promised, I touched quickly on Widgie-Multha project. So this is a picture of Widgie-Multha that I took when I was up there a couple of months ago. So Widgie-Multha is in the heart of the Kambalda Nickel District. It's a bit closer to home. You can see that the area has been well sort of explored. There's been a lot of people had a go of the tenements. We've been building up a tenement package there over the last couple of years. Most of the tenements have sort of remained in application stage for a while, but we're starting to push through some of these important ones through to grant. So in the meantime, we've been working on our targeting. As you see, we put some announcements out this morning. This picture here just shows you where the tenements sit. And I apologise now for the scale of the picture. I know it's a bit hard to see things, but that just gives you a bit of an idea of how big this area is. So the tenement package at the moment sits at about 1,000 square kilometres. So it covers area from sort of Kambalda down to nearly Norseman. We can see we hold ground along Strike and north of Cassini. And we've got this area around Pioneer Dome where Essential Metals have been working up Cade. And more importantly, you know, we're pretty well located to the Kambalda nickel concentrator and things like that. So once again, like the previous speaker, we don't feel confined to make a massive discovery. We don't need it to be standalone, but anything we find in this area, we'll find someone to take the material. So the area's perspective for nickel, lithium and gold. So while we've been waiting for our tenements to be granted, we've been working on our nickel targeting in the background, and we've come up with some pretty interesting areas. We've identified 5. So we put out an announcement this morning, so you can take the time to go read that. But we're planning on doing 1,200 soil samples next month. And we've also identified a couple of walk-up drill-ready sections, such as this example at Dawdy Far West, where you know that there's some holes that were drilled in 2007, 2008, intersected and disseminated nickel sulfide zone. And our nickel guru tells us that he reckons there's pretty good potential. It looks fairly similar to Cassini. And so we're looking forward to sticking some drill holes in it ourselves as soon as we can. We've also worked up our gold targets and our lithium targets, but we don't have enough time to go into it too much detail today, but feel free to come and catch up with us later. So in summary, look, slide 9, you've only got a minute to go. The McDermott deposit, we believe it has the potential to be one of the most significant lithium projects in the United States due to its huge scale and its ability to supply the US with critical minerals such as lithium. And there really is a massive push in the US for the domestication of the supply chain. And back here, closer to home, we've got the Widjimulta project, which so far, as I say, it's kind of dormant. We haven't been on the ground there a lot yet, but that's coming up in the next couple of months. We've got a lot of potential there for lithium, nickel, and gold, and we look forward to doing a lot of work on that. And most of all, it's very easily accessible with the highway running through there. So, but you will see a fair bit of news flow on that coming up. Anyway, I'm happy to say that this afternoon session is complete, and you can go have a drink now. But please feel free to come catch up with me. I'm fairly easy to spot. And or see you in booth 110 tomorrow, or send us an email or contact us however you want. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen. And that brings us to the end of business for day 2. Day 3 kicks off tomorrow morning at 8:30. We'll see you then.